everyone. Very nice to meet you. My name is Marc Johns, and I am the head of marketing for Riot Games Southeast Asia. And today I'm hoping to share a bit of info with all of you around how we worked with influencers for the launch of one of our new games this year, VALORANT, in Southeast Asia, particularly about finding the right content creators to drive excitement, affinity, and ultimately installs for VALORANT. And in the midst of a pandemic, no less, and to boot in a very hyper competitive gaming genre space, which FPSs are in. So without further ado, I just want to give you guys a bit of quick context on Riot Games for those who aren't familiar. Riot's mission is to be the most player-focused game company in the world. And I think you'll see that broken down into our values on the left. What that means for us is we genuinely eat, sleep, and breathe this ethos and ensure that players are at the focus of all of the decisions that we make. We are very, very actively involved on social media, interacting with players where possible in person in a time when we could hold events and community gatherings. But our main sort of takeaway from that is that when players have feedback, there's no issue that is too small. Riot engages and it takes and collects that feedback. And because we have games that are live services, we very, very often update things to ensure that we're doing things that are what our players want, what our players enjoy. So Riot has around 20 offices globally. Our Riot Southeast Asia team is headquartered out of Singapore. There are a couple folks on the team working on Southeast Asia out of Los Angeles as well. But here's a quick snapshot on where our offices are located. And our markets that we cover in Southeast Asia primarily are seen to the left here. So these are our markets where generally League of Legends, our core PC title, has performed strongest. With our new games, they're definitely available in additional markets in SEA, like Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar, etc. But these are some of the markets that we focus very, very heavily on, whether that's in terms of localization or audience engagement, any number of things we do in the marketing space with players. And our esports efforts are definitely world-renowned. You'll see here a shot of the Bird's Nest National Stadium in Beijing for World Finals we held there. It's sold out in a matter of minutes. And you'll see a few of the stats below around the scale of League of Legends esports and the scale of our game in association, right? We have around 100 million players globally. And last time we published an update on our player volume, we had 8 million peak daily active users, right? So most played PC game in the world. And in terms of how that translates into our esports audience, we had 99.6 million viewers of our 2018 World Championship. And we actually have our finals for the World Championship happening very, very shortly here. So we're excited to share that with players, right? And I think that outside of esports and the core game, we definitely work a lot in the mainstream cultural space, right? We try and bring our IP to life in many different ways. And you may have seen some campaigns in the past where we've collaborated, for example, with our League of Legends Pro League in China with Nike, did a campaign that put Uzi, who is a famous Chinese League of Legends player, sort of in the exact same kind of a consideration campaign with LeBron James. The League of Legends has been in a Simpsons episode. You probably have seen KDA and a song we launched a couple years ago, Pop Stars, that we actually released a new EP with these pop stars this year. It has a couple new songs, so definitely check those out, and that's been huge for us. And we definitely no stranger to brand partnerships. We're really excited to have had a partnership with Louis Vuitton just a few years ago for Worlds. This is one of the first brands we kind of incorporated into game. One of our champions here, Kiana, had a League of Legends skin. It's pretty exciting. And in the next 10 years, right, we definitely have a lot more coming up. And so just a quick snapshot over the last few months, we launched our new CCG, Legends of Runeterra. We launched League of Legends Wild Rift just a couple of days ago. And we launched VALORANT, which is the topic of this conversation, in June of this year across Southeast Asia. And so what we kind of wanted to talk about specifically is what we did with influencers in the space of launching this game. But just for some very quick context on what VALORANT is a free-to-play, team-based, multiplayer, tactical first-person shooter. And essentially, in the game, you choose one of several agents. One team attacks, the other defends, and the attacking team must plant a bomb known as a spike in one of 2 points in defending the team's territory. And essentially, when we kind of launched this title, we knew there were a couple of major challenges we had to contend with in Southeast Asia specifically. There are a lot of PC gamers, but there are also a massive amount of mobile title players, right? And that includes battle royales, which we have here listed on the right. Games like Free Fire, for example, that have massive audiences, right? And so in general, when you're kind of coming out with a tactical FPS, right, it obviously doesn't fit into the mobile space, and definitely doesn't really fit into battle royale space, right? So how do we bring to life a title like this in a market where there is definitely trends moving in a direction that sort of are counter to the fundamental offering of the product? So the opportunity we saw here is how do we drive advocacy and drive attention, drive players into the game in the most effective way possible? And for us, that was really about relationship building with core FPS influencers. And I'm going to get into a little bit about what that means on subsequent slides. But essentially, our focus was not on getting the biggest names. Right? I think a lot of games come out and they focus on these large entertainment streamers that play a lot of different games, streamers who may not necessarily are only focused on stream, right? They may be general creators, etc. For us, it was really about finding those within the core FPS community who could really get their hands on the game and allow us to kind of show them why the game was interesting and exciting to them, right? We did that in a couple of different ways. Before I get into this kind of snapshot in some of the things we did, I do just want to kind of call out a couple of the additional challenges to consider here. One is that strong tech shooter titles, they have incredibly loyal followings, right? And there are always new titles coming out. If you look at each market in SEA, there's definitely a different title that may have strength in a given market. Some titles are maybe only popular in one market and aren't popular anywhere else. And so for us, it was really about taking a cut-through approach, really capturing attention and appetite of players. So in a market where we have a young gaming demographic audience and incredibly high social platform penetration, they're both ideal sort of considerations for us in influencer engagement. And in terms of the pandemic and the fact that people are playing games a lot more and are watching streamers and entertainers a lot more was even that much more important, right? We launched this game in June, which all over the world, right, was going into lockdowns, incredibly challenging time. So when we look at some of the tactics here and how we work with influencers in general at Riot, our focus is always on creating long-term mutual value, right? We have no interest in simply like going out and just paying people to play our games, right? It muddies the ecosystem. It doesn't provide long-term value for creators. Like, it puts a short-term amount of cash in their pocket and doesn't necessarily help with sort of like a long-term sustainable career growth for them. And so for us, it's always about doing things that we feel influencers will find beneficial to them or to their audience first and foremost, right? And so a couple of things that we did here, and we'll go into detail on the invitational specifically, were the first piece was an influencer bootcamp. So basically, before anyone got to play the game publicly, right, when it was fully available for everyone, we hosted around 70 key FPS influencers and press at a pre-launch event. And this was an unpaid opportunity, right? But the value it provided was you're getting a sneak peek and a hands-on with the game, and you're getting to talk and meet to devs, and you're getting to talk and meet to the SEA team that'll kind of be managing the title in the region for several hours, right? And really getting hands-on and getting to be a part of that experience, getting the opportunity to give feedback, to ask questions, and to really get that sort of like immersive level, that white glove treatment around the product, right? And we did have an embargo around when influencers and press could share this like sort of early look in bootcamp. But as soon as that was lifted, virtually every single person we invited created many pieces of content, right? And that was a huge opportunity for us to get it out there organically and for them to be able to deliver something that not every other influencer was getting, right? Definitely something valuable for them to get that first opportunity to share. Second piece was we partnered with over 30 creators to actually develop curated content for launch. And that wasn't just an engaging to say, hey, we'd love to have you just stream the game, right? Riot is happy to engage in paid opportunities when we're doing something we believe will deliver value for the viewing audience, for the influencers audience as well. And oftentimes that may be in the form of a tutorial guide or how to play the game, or a review of a certain agent, or tips and tricks, right? Or it may be something more in the realm of a skit content or cosplay or whatever the case may be. We definitely want to support creators in that regard. And one of the main benefits is having them bring the message to life and the game to life in their own way, right? In their own spin. And the last piece here is the Valorant Invitational, which I'll go into a bit more detail here in a second. So essentially the Valorant Invitational was a show match that we held And it featured 6 teams of content creators from across our core markets in Southeast Asia. So Thailand, Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Taiwan. We did this event in July. This was only a few weeks after the game launched. And we ensured that to maximize the kind of viewing audience and ensure people could watch it in their own language, we had it available in English, Bahasa Malaysia, Chinese, Thai, Bahasa Indonesia. And we worked to source partners to broadcast it across digital and linear broadcast TV outlets throughout Southeast Asia. The focus of the event was on a charity cash prize primarily, although there was a straight cash prize to it as well, which is also a nice additional incentive, right, for influencers who want to participate. They're doing something that has kind of social good to it, right, and getting to take part in a marquee moment after the game launches. We also work to kind of bring sponsors on board, right, and that helps as well in sort of elevating the event and helping to leverage co-marketing as a medium for partners to help kind of spread the word about the event taking place. So in terms of hosting the event, the reason why we really did this, right, and part of the reason why we selected the influencers we work with that we'll touch on in a moment is we definitely want to establish credibility in the genre, right? I think it's, as we said earlier, it's a crowded space. So to come out with a new FPS and to say like, hey, we made this game, we hope everyone likes it, right? It's definitely not enough. You have to make sure that for the core community, they understand that for a game that is an incredibly like high skill threshold and incredibly competitive game, right? That people train for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks to even be able to kind of compete at arguably like at a base competitive level. It's something that you need to be very, very conscious of. We want to encourage out of game engagement, right? We want to be our players' favorite activity, right? In and out of game, whether that's watching streams, consuming content, watching esports, whatever the case may be. And we really wanted to help amplify the conversation around the game being out. So just show you guys a very quick little teaser video here. All right, so here's a little bit of overview of the team comp, right? So a lot of names here, but just to kind of break it down in its simplest form, to my earlier note about establishing credibility in the genre and really helping to elevate the FPS space, we want to work with core FPS creators as opposed to sort of purely general entertainers and streamers, right? Who tomorrow may just go pick up another game, right? Whatever the particularly popular title is at the moment. These are folks primarily, right? There are definitely some exceptions here who may play a few different games. There's even some league streamers in here, right? But there are also participants like Mickey PP in Thailand, who's a former Overwatch pro, Supak Choi in Malaysia, who is an FPS streamer, right? Pretty much only streams FPS titles. Crazy Face in Taiwan, who is a retired CSGO pro. And for us, in terms of the boot camp and the content creation opportunities and the gifting we did, it was really focused on these sorts of creators who are really, really hands-on in the genre and can help to sort of bring in audiences who are likely already playing FPS titles as their primary title of choice. So as I said, 5 folks from each of the regions here. Ultimately, Tempest, the team from Taiwan, won the event. And we'll kind of show you guys a couple of the very quick highlights here.
Things get a lot more dicey okay, Ginny holding the right angle. Drops the spike as well, so she's gonna be able to see the rotation across. Right angle already immediately squats against fire earlier, and now she's gonna get spotted on the next one if she pushes up. Will hear the teleport, a good dash coming out. She saw no! Solo, the fancy feet, putting on his dancing
number advantage. All they have to do is to secure all the angles. But look at this, Ginny, she spots him out first. Zonda goes down, and all of a sudden the position's been given away. The paranoia comes out. She gets another pick.
That might just be it. Pushes throughout, spots out the one, and watch out, there's already 4 kills.
And 4 kills on the board. Blade firing at Whitney, and watch out has woken up.
Calculated, but look at Mickey. Mickey, not letting them breathe. Oh, wow, look at that. in a split second, the round is over. They're coming in, streaming in from the showers, but Generating TG, he could be well in position for this. He does get the kill, and that's just gonna be game over for Team Spectre. I don't think they have enough time for this anymore.
Okay, they managed to get it. Oh! You're kidding me.
That Titanium actually have. But now with 15 seconds on the clock, they don't really have much time to work with. And oh no, he just had the perfect lead.
And the first kill goes to and the second. That's huge. Now Spectre lost their star player off his. He needed you guys.
VALORANT still managing to make things work, and I have to double check if it's sudden death, but oh no, Jenny AKG with the 3.
H3.
Talk me through this.
Going up platform, spraying down 2 members. K-Momo will make initial contact. It was cancelled in the end, so no teleport through. Make it a 3K, make it a 4K and long, and K-Momo's manning up. He's looking for the 5th. Will be stolen away by...
Flushes out too quickly out on B-Heaven, and here's Mickey PP. Comes in, kaboom! That's gonna be another showstopper for you. Gets caught on the trap, and Mickey does not miss. This guy making the highlights for Titanium and getting them their second round.
Just to give an additional fun piece of context here, I think if we look at like a challenge or learning from this event, trying to balance the teams a bit more to be conscious of players who were professional or are professional FPS players, right? Definitely something to be conscious of when we're doing a kind of show match or charity show match, right? Is we want to get those folks in, and a lot of times we're playing with streamers who aren't necessarily playing FPS as their only genre, and so definitely helps a bit to balance the teams out as strongly as possible, right? I think when we look at ultimately results from this event, VALORANT in general broke Twitch streaming records. So the game has been hugely successful since launch, and in Southeast Asia. The Riot Southeast Asia team actually achieved our annual sort of general target set for the game within the very first month of launch, right? So we're incredibly grateful for the interest and excitement around the title. When we look at the outcomes specifically around the invitational event, this was a relatively sort of low budget event, just because, as I mentioned several times throughout the presentation, we were focused on delivering value for the influencers themselves, right? And in turn, very excited to participate and to be part of it, to be part of something exclusive with other big names, something we broadcasted and promoted, and really put kind of effort into making sure it was an enjoyable experience they could share with their audiences as well. So event delivered over 4 million impressions. We had over 100 pieces of media coverage from across Southeast Asia, right? All the markets that we had participants in and additional markets. And we had over 75 pieces of organic content created by participants and casters, right? So this is outside of the core event itself. This is all the promotion leading up to it, all of the discussion afterwards, right? And reviewing and like sharing clips and talking about things. These were all things that were unpaid opportunities that participants and casters were just excited to share around the event, right? And so, yeah, overall, I hope that was a little bit of a kind of glimpse behind the curtain in terms of how we focus on sort of like building attention and affection from FPS players in Southeast Asia, particularly through using influencers and using credible influencers from within the genre as the core focus. And yes, hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Thank you.